Thanks for joining us on another episode of The Catholic View for Women, the show with news and views for women from a truly Catholic perspective. Today we are going to be talking about Hispanic women, catechesis, and the church. And of course, joining me in our discussion, as they always do, are my co-hosts. And most of the responsibility for this show, because of her expertise in the Hispanic community, is going to fall on the lovely shoulders of Astra Bennett Gutierrez from Hispanics for Life, and also we'll hear from, as we do every show again, Janet Marana, who is the co-founder of the Silent No More Awareness Campaign, the executive director for Priests for Life, and a well-known, lovely face to our EWTN viewers because, of course, many years co-hosting Defending Life right here on the EWTN network. This is a really interesting topic, Astra, because I think we see this in a lot of cultural communities. So many people who grow up Catholic but have fallen away from the church, don't know their faith, and find themselves really away from the church in so many ways.
Absolutely, and the Hispanic community in particular, I think there's an urgent need for catechesis, but also a tremendous hope. And I hope that the things that we share today are going to be universal, not just for Hispanics, but I think because Hispanics have some barriers, like the language barrier, some social circumstances, you know, being immigrants or poverty, these kind of things, make it especially difficult to reach out to catechize. So this show is about challenging the church and also facing the reality. Hispanics by the year 2050 will be a third of the population of the United States. So the implications not only for the United States but also for the church. We have to realize that we have to reach out and then understand the culture and especially the language. That's, I think, one of the biggest obstacles that remains in the work we do in the pro-life movement is how do we get the information out there, because it's Hispanics, they're fertile ground, you know, and they are being attacked. So how do we come out with the resources, but also do it in a very sensitive way, but proactive way and effective way?
Right. And you know, when you say the Hispanic community is growing so much, I think most people think of, when they think of the Hispanic community, they think of Southern California, South Texas, and Miami, you know? But now, the Hispanic is
I met them here in Alabama,
yes. They're here in Alabama, Mississippi. I mean, well, they always had a large Hispanic community where I'm from in New York and the Northeast, but just about every state has a large population of Hispanic people, and that's what people have to understand. It's the whole church, not just certain pocket areas of the states that have to reach out and reach, especially the Latinas, the women, because they're the ones who are being targeted by Planned Parenthood. And
that's what I was just going to ask. What are the numbers? We know that in the African American community there have been at least 17 million babies aborted since Roe v. Wade. What about the numbers in the Hispanic community? Do you know?
So 25% of abortions are done on Hispanic women. Wow. And so, and the thing is, ladies, women, Hispanic women, if you interview them, the Pew research has shown that they are pro-life, overwhelmingly pro-life, against abortion, but they don't act pro-life.
They don't act pro-life, and they don't vote pro-life.
Disconnect. So they do describe themselves as social conservatives. They do have a sensitivity to their values. They know abortion is wrong, and I know this because I counsel Hispanic women that are in crisis pregnancies. Very, very often they know what they're doing is wrong. They're coming in there not with a pro-choice mentality. This is my right. I want an abortion.
Well, they feel desperate, right?
Absolutely. It's a heart-wrenching decision. And when you dig deeper, you realize they don't want to do this, but they're being pressured, they're being shamed into an abortion, and that's what's happening. So one of the biggest threats in the Hispanic community is Planned Parenthood, and they're very clever, and I think we can learn a lesson. You know, they're so shrewd about the way that they reach out to the minority community, which is ironic because, or actually makes sense. The roots of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger's vision, was that this abortion and contraception would be prevalent in these minority neighborhoods.
To wipe them out, basically.
That's right.
They're wanted.
Undesirable, she called them.
Well, you know, in my book, Recall Abortion, in my chapter on the pill, I have information how the women of Puerto Rico were human guinea pigs for the pill. The drug companies experimented on the Puerto Rican women, and women were dying because of the pill. And they were messing around with the dosage of the pill to see how it would be effective to prevent pregnancy, and at the same time overdosing them. Yes. And it was very revealing when I was researching for Recall Abortion to find that out.
Exactly. So Hispanics are vulnerable, and they're the first targets, for example, like you just mentioned, the pill. So whatever is happening in the Hispanic community can eventually make its way to the community at large. So the things we're sharing right now might be shocking to people, but it really, I think we are guinea pigs in more ways than one. Now Planned Parenthood has established the first reproductive health services office inside of a Los Angeles high school.
Oh, that's right. That's what you were on Fox News for, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, you did a great job, by the way.
Thank you. And actually, it's so important that people realize this is not just for Hispanics. The vision, I think, in the President Obama's health care includes the vision that all high schools have these reproductive health service offices inside their school grounds. What does that mean? That means
that's a code word for abortion and birth control.
And
absolutely.
Pills,
so then they're gonna cut out the middleman, so that they won't go to the nurse, because in California, a 14-year-old girl can get an abortion. A lot of our Latinos are being faced with this every day, and now in the high schools, they're making it easier for Planned Parenthood to get to your daughter,
without you knowing.
Without you knowing. Absolutely. And so their goal is to reduce pregnancy rates. And they've reduced pregnancies, but I think not the pregnancy rates, birth rates is what they're doing through abortion. So we don't know if they're reducing pregnancy rates through the contraceptives or if they're facilitating abortions for these girls. Because my theory about why there's so many teen moms in the Hispanic community, because I counsel them, is that they're more open to choosing life, so you see more pregnant girls, But I think teens, in this culture, are becoming pregnant. It's just that who is choosing life? I think the Hispanics are. So the natural targets, for Planned Parenthood, who also sees this as a huge profit. So we have to fight this in the schools. But what's going on in that community in East Los Angeles is that Planned Parenthood was very smart about how they did it. They went in there not waiting for the scandal to break out. They met with the parents. They brought the parents in and spoke to them in their language and said to them, we're going to establish a center inside the school that's going to reduce pregnancy rates of your children. Who doesn't want to hear that? And wellness and health and all of this. And
it's just the opposite.
It's just the opposite.
Exactly.
They're exposing them to sexually transmitted diseases, emotional problems, other health problems in terms of it. They're putting them on the pill at an early age. I mean,
exactly. So before summer lets out, the girls are, go into this office and come out with their little bag of contraceptives, or before prom, they equip them for this. But parents don't know that their child's soul is in danger. And another step of their program here in the schools is that they equip and train leaders amongst the students to educate their peer to bring them into these places.
Right.
So what are we doing as a church to educate our parents, to educate our youth, and to not only educate them, but also build them up as leaders? Because the Planned Parenthood not only educates, not only builds up leaders, they also build up staff. So I had the honor to meet Ramona Trevino, and she was a Planned Parenthood director in Texas. Lovely young lady.
Amazing story.
Yes.
Amazing story.
And we call her the Hispanic Abby Johnson, because she was somebody that was Catholic, and she bought into the whole Planned Parenthood vision about, we want to give women the choices, and so she ended up working for them, and she was very talented, to the point that when she had, thanks be to God, a conversion and left, they ended up closing down because they couldn't, they couldn't keep up with all that she did. But I talked to her and I asked her, why do you think you ended up there? And basically, Ramona shared the following, which was really, really enlightening and also encouraging. And hopefully it'll give us hope as well. Not only does Planned Parenthood target us as patients, but they also target us as potential employees. They are aware that in order to convince Latina women that abortion and contraception is acceptable, you must have employees who are not only Latinas, but who are also Catholic and who speak their language to sell other Latinas on their ideals. And her answer to how to solve this, she says, the Catholic Church is our constant in an ever-changing world and culture. However, we must realize that Latinos may be losing their pro-life and pro-family values as they adapt and try to fit in to a different culture where abortion is legal and where casual sex and the use of contraception is completely acceptable and promoted. And so she also, during her conversion, one of the things that helped her to understand how the error of her ways and being in Planned Parenthood is she heard Janet Smith's talk contraception, why not?
Yeah.
And I think many people
yeah.
point to that moment when they heard that talk to understand the evil of contraception and
I
what
know
she was doing.
One of the stories in my book, Dr. Nina Brin, actually her conversion came through that talk of Janet Smith.
Yes, and not only our friend here, Ramona, but I myself in college ended up in one of their programs, Planned Parenthood's programs. They were very astute. They went to the pre-medical, I was in pre-med when I was in university at one point, and they came and said, do you want to help end AIDS? And especially in the minority communities, come in and help us, be a volunteer. So I spent my time, precious time that I had at the university, going to their programs and understanding the way that they recruit you is to start breaking down the barriers of modesty and to see sex as something that's not a big deal. But what is a big deal is the AIDS epidemic, so let's just bombard these people with contraception. And I didn't know my faith very well, so I wasn't even sure that what I was seeing was wrong, but something inside is kind of off, but you know that you want to do something good. So they really prey on the good intentions of the university students and the Hispanic people. So we have to come out even more proactive than them, and I hope the Holy Spirit inspires many people to serve our Hispanic brothers and sisters, and not only the Hispanics, but I think everybody that is being duped by Planned Parenthood. They have so much political power.
But they're picking on those who are particularly vulnerable, especially on the minority communities, in both the African Americans and Hispanic communities. But when we come back, we have a saint, of course, but I also want to talk to you about, Janet and I have a lot of questions about the influence you think Pope Francis is having in the Hispanic community, in particular in South and Central America. And really, I just think he is
breath of fresh air,
doing amazing things within that community already. We'll be right back, and much more information on our topic today, which is Hispanic Women, Catechesis, and the Church. And we hope you'll stay tuned for the rest of the program. And also a reminder to visit our website for all the information, plus our homework assignment, which is coming up, and our saint for this program. All of that and much more as we continue our discussion right here on EWTN's The Catholic View for Women. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Catholic View for Women. Myself, Teresa Tomeo, along with Astra Bennett Gutierrez and Janet Morana, having a very interesting discussion about Hispanic women, catechesis, and the Church. And in this year's series of The Catholic View for Women, we want to bring you a saint in every episode, because the communion of saints is so important to our faith, and they can help us in our walk. And Janet has our saint, which is St. Teresa of the Andes, correct?
That's right. And of course, Astrid, you know, I know this is your department, but I'm going to give it a try. Yes. Okay, we'll see how my Espanol works here with some of the pronunciations, all right? Anyway, she's known as St. Teresa of Jesus of the Andes, and in Espanol, it is Teresa de Jesus de los Andes. She was a Chilean nun of the discussed Carmelite order. She was born, I'm not going into this long name, Juanita Enriqueta Josefina de los Sagras Corazones. How was that?
Pretty good.
Very good.
Very good. Nice job.
A+ in Espanol. In Chile, into an upper class family. Early in her life, she read the autobiography of the French Carmelite nun, Teresa of Lisieux, who was later to be canonized herself. The experience had a profound effect on Juanita's already pious character, coming to the realization she wanted to live for God alone. She had to work to overcome a very self-centered personality towards being one which cared for others above all. Her further inspiration for this self-transformation was her upcoming First Communion, which led her to this commitment to an effort to be worthy of what she was to receive. I mean, that says it all right there, the insight. Anyway, in 1919, at the age of 19, she entered the novitiate of the discussed Carmelite nuns in the township of Los Andes, right? At which time she was given the name Teresa of Jesus. Towards the end of her short life, the new Sister Therese began an apostolate of letter writing, sharing her thoughts on the spiritual life with many people. Within a few months of her admission to the order, however, she contracted typhus, which was a diagnosis as fatal. She therefore died as a professed nun of the order on April 12, 1920, which fell during the Holy Week that year. Teresa remains popular with an estimated 100,000 pilgrims who visit each year the shrine where her remains are venerated in the sanctuary there in Los Andes, 60 miles from Santiago. She is Chile's first saint and is especially popular among women and young people. And so,
yes.
Tell me why, though, in particular, Esther. I mean, this is, you can see the Eucharist was the thing that really essential for her. But why do you think Latina women have such a devotion to her? What is that?
Well, Teresa, first of all, was very young when she died in Carmel, but I think it's because of her youth, and she lived in the 1900s, you know, at the turn of the century.
So she's not that far away from us in terms of a time
she was
frame.
Upper class. I mean, she had all the privileges, you know, and she had all the options, and she could have gone the other way. She could have gone to the material world, but I think God gave her the grace because of her family, his devotion to understand where true happiness lay. And I think all of us, not only Hispanics, are looking for true happiness, you know, and she exemplifies that. And she found so much joy, even those 9 months that she lived in Carmel. She lived it to the full. And she has this beautiful quote, and I think when I read it, I think this is a very Hispanic. This is a Hispanic woman, so much passion and so much love for our Lord. She says, "Let us give ourselves to Him. What do 50 or 100 years on this earth matter compared to eternity? Sacrifices here on earth signify glory without end in our heavenly home. And what is sacrifice? What is the cross if not heaven itself, since in it we find Jesus?" She's 19 years old, writing this. What a tremendous grace and witness. And so she was the first saint, also Carmelite saint in Latin America. Very young, and she was canonized by John Paul II, who gave a beautiful homily at that Mass of canonization, and basically he wanted to highlight her youth, you know, which reflected the youth of the gospel, and he wanted to challenge young people. And basically he said the following: "The life of Teresa cries out continually from within her cloister, God alone suffices."
That is Teresa of Avila's prayer.
Right.
That's the end of her
Alone.
St. Teresa's bookmark. Yeah, God alone suffices, let nothing disturb you. Yeah.
Amen. And she shouts it out particularly to the young people who are hungry for the truth and seek a light which will give direction to their lives. To young people who are being allured by the continuous messages and stimuli of an erotic culture, a society which mistakes the hedonistic exploitation of another for genuine love, which is self-giving. This young virgin of the Andes today proclaims the beauty and happiness that can come from a pure heart. So this is basically who she was, and her message is still very much, I mean, you read this and you think this is exactly what we're talking about right now, and the perils that we see in the Hispanic community, I think, are especially acute. We see in the media with Hispanics, it's a paradox, because Hispanics, I think, are very pro-family, pro-life, and yet
pro-marriage,
and yet what you see unfortunately in the secular media is something contrary to what we see. The soap operas, I think, are much worse in Spanish than they are in English. You have
the telenovelas,
well, even some of the TV shows that they have, the primetime shows featuring very lovely the sitcoms, whether it be what's that one show, Family. I think it's NBC or ABC, and there's the other one with Eva Longoria, Desperate Housewives. I mean, so you have these women who are
but even
beautiful, but they're in these immoral shows.
His testimony,
exactly,
you know, he was in those telenovelas, which he said were horrible, shameful, sinful.
There weren't many options, so he wanted to break away from that. And to break away from that, if you are an actor in Mexico and you say, I'm not going to do these telenovelas, which are really always pushing the envelope and exemplifying different forms of adultery, all this different sin. If you say, I'm not going to do that, you're basically unemployed. There's very little that you can do.
Well,
very little.
And isn't that what he did? He broke away and came to the United States with no job, no future, nothing, and said, "But I'm just going to," you know, he had a conversion, a real conversion.
It was the conversion. It was absolutely that. Here's a very handsome young man with so many talents and possibilities, and he'd just come to Hollywood. And basically, what an opportunity. It's a dream of actors in Latin America to come to the United States and make a break in Hollywood. He had that chance. And God found him, I think, before his soul was lost, given the opportunity to know his faith. And, you know, he sent somebody. How beautiful the story of his testimony, that his tutor was the one who taught him English,
and then about the faith, on Catholic faith,
asking him questions. You know, what do you think? Why do you think God put you on this world? And very few people ever get that chance to be challenged. So one of the things that's very close to his heart is seeing how Hispanics are betraying the faith by the way they vote. And that's one thing that I know when election time comes around, he wants to address that. And he really sticks his neck out, I want to say, to be able to reach out to Hispanics, to get them to see that when they vote against candidates that are pro-life, they vote for pro-death candidates, our communities are affected. Right. The unborn that our brothers and sisters are affected, and so he wants to shed light. You know, he's one person, though. I think we need to join him.
And I don't think there was enough, in looking back at the last election, I don't think there was enough outreach to the minority communities and their concerns to the conservatives. They were pretty much ignored.
At least it's not matched by the secular media and what they're doing to basically try to speak our language, and they don't ever say abortion. You know, it's very interesting. And
they say reproductive rights. They say choice.
They say health. They don't even say that.
Women's health. Reproductive health.
Yes, they don't even use the word rights. They don't say that. They want to say what appeals to free health care, things like that they think are going to appeal. And if we that know the truth don't come out and catechize, that's the important thing now.
Well, yeah, because if you combine that, everything you just said, with a poor catechesis, it's a recipe for disaster. I mean, we went through that in our own lives because we were faced with the culture, maybe not so much from a perspective in terms of, you know, an ethnic group, but we were poorly catechized, then we went out there and were hit by the world. Right. You know?
But Esther, like, for those of us who say, you know, we have maybe a small population even in our parish that are Latino community, what kind of things do you think we who want to help, you know, catechize or help? I mean, I don't speak Spanish, you know, but they all speak English too. So what would you say for our viewers? What can we do to help spread the messages of how they are being targeted, you know, to vote for pro-abortion candidates, and how can we help them to understand how they're, you know, what should be the average person? What would you suggest that we do?
There are many ways, and one of the most important things to understand is a language barrier. So when you make something available, think always in terms of translating it. And there are wonderful resources already created in Spanish, and the homework section of today will have some resources. Hispanics for Life website, Priests for Life Hispanic Outreach has amazing resources. Every homily, you know, every Sunday there is a translation of Father Frank's homily.
We have a lot on the Priests for Life website.
That can be ordered, that can be made available.
And of course we have Victor Salomon, our full-time Hispanic outreach, and we have Sacerdotes por la Vida.
Bring them into the Hispanic parishes to preach to the people in their language. And also we have a Latin American Pope, a Latino Pope, for, you know, for the first time, and so he's been tweeting amazing things.
Okay, he's Argentinian and Italian. He's got the best of both worlds. No, he actually he was born in Argentina. His parents were from